Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies, and today I want to tell you about the best classic movies you can currently watch on Netflix. So the newest one on this list came out in 1991, the oldest in the 60s, and I'll be putting the years down below with the title for this particular video, just since we're going so far back in time. But there's some really great movies. Some of them you've seen, a couple of them you probably haven't. You maybe have wondered whether or not you should. I'll try to give you some of that information today.
Get on with it. Yes, get over there.
If it's any inclination as to how good and how strong this list is, my number 10 pick is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Now, this is not my favorite Monty Python movie, which is why it's all the way at the back, but it still is great, and it's classic for so many, not reasons, but so many scenes make this movie a classic. It's so quotable, and I don't know about you, but for me, it appeared as if this movie was required viewing for the drama kids in high school. They seem to love it a lot more than anybody else, though. If that was you, let us know in the comments below. But I'll move on to my number 9 pick, which is The Wild Bunch, which is a really great Western. But I am a big fan of Westerns, and The Wild Bunch drags on in ways that other ones do not. However, it is a good movie. It's got some action in it. It's got some shootouts that I even mentioned this one in my shootout video that I put out recently. To me, The Wild Bunch just can't even fuck with the Sergio Leone Westerns. Those are just an art form onto themselves. They're unique onto themselves. And The Wild Bunch, while it is a good classic Western and it's an incredible story, artistically it just doesn't get there the way some others do, but it's a great watch if you want to watch an old school bloody. I mean, this is a bloody Western to be as old as it is. It's surprisingly bloody. I recommend it, which is why it's on the list, but that is my reasoning for putting it all the way back at number 9.
Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. Aren't you?
Funny thing about The Graduate is Anne Bancroft and Dustin Hoffman were actually only 5.5 years apart in age. I want to say when the film came out. Forever. That's how far apart they are in age. But they aged her for the film and made him look younger than he actually was. Made him look like they were about 30 years apart. But this one's, again, a classic for so many reasons. The Simon and Garfunkel soundtrack. I'm not really even into Simon and Garfunkel, and it works so well for this movie. The story is so fun. This is one of those ones that everybody knows is a classic movie, but a lot of people haven't seen it yet. I'm sure there's a lot of you watching that have yet to watch it. I highly recommend taking this trip. It is a really good movie. I think you can see where Wes Anderson picks up a lot of his influence from the way this movie looks, as well as others. But it's got a good look to it, but the story is really good in the sense that it's not the same thing that you've seen over and over again. This is before everything was formulaic, where they started pumping out this product. They had a good story and they made a good movie from it. And this is a good example of that. The story really morphs and changes, and there's good character arcs, which is what makes this one so good.
Today they ask us to get rid of Joe. Tomorrow they ask me to get rid of you. Is that okay with you? Because it's not okay with me.
I talked about the Sergio Leone Westerns. Once Upon a Time in America is not a Western. It takes place in America, but it takes place in New York in the 20s. It revolves around some thieves and robbers. It stars De Niro, James Woods, Jennifer Connelly, a very young Jennifer Connelly has an appearance in it. This is a great movie, but it's one of my least favorite Sergio Leone movies, and I love his work, which is why it's above even The Wild Bunch on this list. It is very slow. Somebody had to complain the last time I recommended this movie. It is a very slow movie, but it's beautifully shot, incredible cinematography. Anybody that considers himself to be like a cinephile or movie buff has to watch this one. Try to do it before it leaves Netflix.
I'm a zit. Get it?
I don't know that there's much I need to say about Animal House, other than the fact that the filming of this movie has a very interesting backstory. It barely got made. It was put together with very little money, and it was a huge success. It's considered a cult film. A lot of people consider it to be one of, if not the funniest movie ever made. And the great thing about it, and something that I find with comedies too often, is that they're not very rewatchable. Animal House, I find extremely rewatchable. It's one of those movies where you enjoy seeing the jokes over and over again. The jokes aren't ruined, they're enhanced by multiple viewings. There's only a handful of movies that can really claim that, and Animal House is certainly one of them. If you like this type of content, definitely click that subscribe button and be sure to click the little bell icon so you get notified when I put out new videos just like this one.
Look, you little bastard, either you march, or I'll beat your brains out.
My number 5 pick is The Dirty Dozen, which is a really great war movie. Anybody who's a fan of Quentin Tarantino, or more specifically The Inglourious Basterds, needs to watch The Dirty Dozen before it leaves Netflix. It is among the movies that he most certainly watched when he wrote that movie. It's an amazing story, and it's such a cool way to tell it with some really cool actors. We're talking Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, Jim Brown, Donald Sutherland. Just an incredible cast about this band of criminal elements in the military that they band together to go on essentially a suicide mission. And it is a cool flick. I still think about this movie every single time I shave with cold water, which is more often than I probably should. Love this one. It has stuck with me, and it's been a long time since I've watched it, so I'm probably going to check it out before it leaves Netflix.
Do you think if you save poor Catherine, you could make them stop, don't you? You think if Catherine lives, you won't wake up in the dark ever again to that awful screaming of the lambs?
It's the youngest movie on the list. That's Silence of the Lambs. While it's not fully based on a factual event, it borrows from a lot of reality and sort of builds this fictional story out of things that really did happen for the most part. And really, as far as horror, even though it's not a horror movie, it's sort of a genre film, sort of tied into the horror genre. It won an Academy Award for Best Picture. It's one of the few connected to the horror genre that can claim that, and it deserves it. It really is incredible, not just because of Anthony Hopkins' performance, even though it is great. The story, again, it's not a formulaic thing. It works. It goes in places you don't expect the first time you're going to see it. And honestly, if it's been a long time since you've seen it, this movie still has stuff in it that will surprise you. And then it's just really well executed. The tension is there when it needs to be there. You can kind of solve the case along with Jodie Foster's character. This movie works on so many levels. I enjoyed some of the other Hannibal things that we've gotten, including the series and the other spin-off movies, but this one, to me, is as good as it gets. And that includes Manhunter, which I really, really love, but this one, as cool as that one is, and as much as I love Michael Mann, this one, to me, is still the superior film. My number 3 pick is actually a trilogy. It's the Indiana Jones trilogy. And no, I did not misspeak. It is a trilogy because the 4th Indiana Jones movie can go fuck itself. The 3 are perfect the way they are. I rank them in order as Raiders of the Lost Ark. The Last Crusade is a close second. Sometimes there are days where I would tell you that's my favorite. And then the Temple of Doom. Now, a lot of people like to hate on the Temple of Doom, and it is an inferior film in a lot of ways. It's a little sloppy. Spielberg just wasn't bringing his A game for that one. It's got some cheesier elements that don't really work. The lead actress is horrific.
About, we're not sinking, we're crashing!
Grab on, shorty!
However, you've got the cart chase in the mine, rope bridge with the crocodiles. There's really great elements to the Temple of Doom that I personally just really, really love, which sort of saves it from the abyss for me. But the others are far superior. Raiders of the Lost Ark, if you just consider the fact that that movie was made, it's not a franchise at that point. It was made completely independent of this franchise that has been built. It was so successful and so entertaining. and it still is to this day. It's almost the perfect movie. And then The Last Crusade did a great job of sort of like playing with the nostalgia element, bringing the father in, showing Indiana Jones when he was young, on the train. Just, it itself is such a great movie as well, and it does such a good job of playing with the series. I love this trilogy. Apparently they're making another one. Maybe they should stop, and maybe they should just sort of make try to kickstart another series on its own and quit bastardizing this one that everyone loves so much. That's my 2 cents on the Indiana Jones. If you've got some input on what you love and don't love about anything Indiana Jones, you can let us know in the comments.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
My number 2 pick is Apocalypse Now. Now, this is one of the few movies that I really love that my wife cannot stand. She only watched it the one time with me, so maybe I'll get her to watch it again. But even though I had seen parts of it and I was very familiar with the movie in high school, it was in college that I really watched it in its entirety. And on a first viewing from beginning to end, this movie really blew me away. The ending of this movie is so incredible. And not just because Marlon Brando gives this really weird but intense performance. It just sort of like crescendos and builds up to this madness and was done in such a brilliant way. Movies like this don't come along very often. Francis Ford Coppola was definitely on his A game when directing this movie. It's maybe not the best war movie ever made, but it's certainly one of the most ambitious and one of the most like compelling war movies ever made. Just a really different take on that genre. So for that, I absolutely love this film. In fact, I even struggle with putting it at number 2, but my number 1 pick is a longtime personal favorite of mine, Cool Hand Luke.
What we've got here is failure to communicate. Some men you just can't reach.
Now, for the making of this video, I actually benefit from having just recently watched Cool Hand Luke. What I noticed watching it recently was that, and I did talk about this on the podcast this past week, is every line in this movie, everything everybody says is relevant in some way. It's relevant to the story, it's relevant to character development, it's important, yet it all feels very natural. And now that may seem like an obvious thing, that's what all movies should do. Most movies fail at this. They get a lot of it, but not every single line. That's very, very difficult to do. This movie's so well crafted, well put together. And the character of Luke, played by Paul Newman, is such a complicated character and layered character. It's taken me so many viewings to understand this character and all the different layers, and I'm probably still not to the center. But Paul Newman understood this character. He had maybe months to prepare for this role, and he understood this character inside and out and played him so well. I absolutely love this movie. If you do as well, let me know in the comments below. But I will keep making episodes just like this one as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking this one out, and you will see me on the next one. I'd like to thank my Patreon supporters. They help make episodes like this possible, so that's why I show you all their names at the end of every episode. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, at least just see what benefits you can get from supporting me, there's a link to that in the description, a link to an Amazon shop where you can buy Blu-rays, DVDs, and other stuff that I recommend, and a t-shirt shop, Instagram, you can follow me there. Whatever you want to do to support the channel, I really appreciate it.